you love movies and movie discussions, you've come to the right place. Who am I, you ask? I am the Wiz, and I'm here today to review the 1979 sci-fi adventure Stalker, directed by Andrei Tarkovsky. Well, it has been pretty interesting to finally get to watch this movie. This is a movie that I've been into the Criterion Collection, and I collect a lot of their movies. This seems to be one of the big movies from that collection, and for good reason. It seems like a lot of people praise this movie. I think another reason why it's talked about a lot in these circles is also what happens after the movie was released and after it got incredible acclaim, and that is the amount of tragedy that happened right after the film was made. Several cameramen died. The two actors that were in the movie died shortly thereafter. The director died a certain amount of time later. I think for the same reasons. I think they all contracted some kind of cancer, I believe is what happened. There's an episode that I watched a little while ago of a show called Cursed Films. It's on Shudder if you are subscribed to that. I went ahead and just watched an episode. I bought an episode for like $2 on YouTube, and they go over that in like the first half of that episode. It was really interesting. Another episode that they do on Cursed Films is Twilight Zone the movie. Holy hell, is that a mess. There is some intense stuff that they show in that episode, so if you can handle that, I'd check that episode out as well. But let's get into it. Let's get into the review of Stalker, directed by Andrei Tarkovsky. Before that, let's get into the plot. In an unnamed country at an unspecified time, there is a fiercely protected post-apocalyptic wasteland known as the Zone. An illegal guide called a Stalker, whose mutant child suggests unspeakable horrors within the Zone, leads a writer and a scientist into the heart of the devastation in search of a mythical place known only as the Room. It is believed that anyone who enters the Room will supposedly have any of his earthly desires immediately fulfilled. Yeah, and that is the plot. But I'm going to say this, that this is a 2 hour and 45 minute film. And one of the things I will say that in that 2 hour and 45 minutes, there's an unspeakable beauty throughout the entire film through decay and destruction. First off, in scenes that are in quote-unquote civilization around the Zone, is in this yellowish, mustardy tinge that makes it feel unclean and dirty. And it just seems like it's very unpleasant to be around. It seems empty, devoid of life. There is a few other people there, but it just seems like it's very, very few people there. But when you get into the Zone, it's weird because it doesn't feel science fiction-y, but the mood that the film really gives, the way it's shot and the way the film is lit, really gives off this really uncomfortable, uneasy vibe. But what's interesting is for a place that is considered uninhabitable, that is considered to be a destructive zone, it's actually beautiful to look at. It's fascinating in that way. But what's also fascinating about the film is it's fascinating through its confusion and obfuscation. I told you what the plot is. Now, this is one of these films where it's not an A to B to C kind of film. I would say the main plot kind of is, but kind of isn't. A lot of things happen in the film that is just incredibly confusing. But I think it's meant to be that way because you're supposed to question a lot of what's going on in the film. I'll be absolutely honest. I'm not entirely sure what the film is ultimately about. There are theories out there, and I have a theory or two of my own that I'm kind of not sure of. Mulholland Drive is the same way, where at the end of the film, I'm not entirely sure what I watched, but I am definitely fascinated by what I watched. And I kind of want to watch it again to get myself another feeling of it. Another film that was like this from this year, The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie. That was another film that did the exact same thing. Am I entirely sure what I just watched? No. But am I fascinated to learn more? Yes. And I think Stalker does that for me as well. But I will say this. The film's incredibly slow pace may bother some. The average camera cut from a scene is about a minute. When you hear that, it doesn't sound long, but really it is long. They linger on specific areas and the camera does not move, or it moves very slowly for minutes on end. And honestly, some might find it boring because the characters are either sitting around or they're talking or they're looking at a certain thing and talking, and they're talking very cryptically, so it's not like something is really going on. And there's no action to the movie at all either. It's not like you're watching watching like 10 minutes of something happening in this one scene, and a lot of stuff is happening. Not a lot's happening. It's just very slow and deliberate, and you're watching it, trying to figure out what's happening. And another thing starts to happen as the film slowly pans forward. Beautiful to look at, and it's fascinating in its way, but I can tell that some people will watch this going, oh my god, what is happening? Why is this so slow? So if you're one of those people, I would say maybe steer clear. Here are the footnotes for Stalker. And the only footnote I have is, good lord, make sure you are caffeinated before you watch this. Like I said, the film is slow, and it stays and lingers on certain scenes and on certain things for minutes on end. I have a confession to make. I started watching this the previous night. I got 20 minutes in, and I fell asleep. I woke up, and then a glass fell off of a table, and then it said the end, and I'm like, well, that was short. Oh no. And it wasn't like I was bored. I think I was tired. And usually I can sit through a movie if I'm interested. And I'm interested in this movie, but it is so slow that it kind of lulled me to sleep a bit. So I waited until the next day where I had enough energy and stuff, and I tried it again. I'm old. Like, I'm not like old, but I'm old enough, you know? So, you know, don't judge me too much. So overall, I am going to recommend Stalker. I think it's a very good movie. It is something that I want to see again, and probably very soon, just like Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie. I can't say I loved it, but I think also I'm not entirely sure what it's about. I have theories and thoughts, but I think another run-through of the movie, I might cement a few things and how I feel about it. But it's definitely one of those films where, like Discreet Charm, like Jeanne Dielman from last year, I am glad I finally watched it. I'm glad I experienced it. I'd like to experience it again to see how I feel about it later on. So, overall, I do recommend Stalker by Andrei Tarkovsky. It is on Criterion Channel. It's on Max. I think it's also on YouTube. I know there's other sites as well that run it for free. So, wherever you can find it, check it out. Now, if you want my full review on this movie, you can go to my website at iamthewiz.com. You'll have my full written review right on the site, along with a link to the video that has this review that you've just listened to. All right, so for Thursday, me and Zero are going to be reviewing Tron, directed by Steve Lisberger. Saturday, I'll be reviewing Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, directed by Nicholas Meyer, for the continuing coverage of all the Star Trek movies. And on Tuesday, I thought I would watch some movies that are sports-based, and I'm going to start with a movie that I'll be honest with you, the only reason why I'm watching this is because I'm actually more interested in the sequel of this movie, but I've heard this is also good. So I'm watching The Hustler, directed by Robert Rossen. And if you know about this movie, it's a Paul Newman movie. It's with Jack and Gleason as well. But the reason why I'm interested in this movie is because I want to try and see all the Martin Scorsese films that I can. And the film that I am more interested in is The Color of Money. And that is the sequel to this film. So I'm going to check this out and then probably another time watch Color of Money. So on Thursday, me and Zero are going to be reviewing Tron, directed by Steve Lisberger. Saturday, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, directed by Nicholas Meyer. And on Tuesday, The Hustler, directed by Robert Rossen. I am The Wiz, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.